Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harris and Young. We are just about halfway through the month of November. It's kind of a nice afternoon. It's like I said in my show last night, a lot of the country's getting blitzed with snow and cold. It's not too bad here. I'll take it. So we got a great guest tonight, a very colorful gentleman here, and Sinister One. We'll get to him in a minute, but first got to read these great underwriters. We got Auto Country, king of the used car in Abington. We got a new one here in Easton, Takeouts Pizza and Roast Beef on Depot Street, pickup and delivery per order. We got Easton Fitness in Easton, a new one too. Also, they underwrote a couple of shows in the Village Shops. Mm-hmm. We got Brockton Tire in Brockton, where they sell and install warranted tires for $50 to $60. We got Closed Clinic Dry Cleaning and Alterations in Whitman, where Topic Time fans get 10% off. We got Modern Auto Body in Brockton. We got good old T. Martini and Son Floor Covering in Abington. We got Big Lee's Automotive in Abington. And we got MDI Auto Brokers and Repair, home of the fully certified used car in Whitman. And I want to thank you guys very much. And now we will officially start the show. Here we go.
Uh-oh. Got a great beat. You can dance to it.
Oh, I've been doing this for 9 years, man. I know. Got it down.
Remix.
And again, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Topic Time with Harris and Young. And it's just loving it every day. More Topic Time, great guests over and over, and it just never gets old. So this young man here, this very eye-catching dude with the logos on his suede jacket there or whatever he's got, and all that other stuff. This is Keith Hayes, but he's also known as Sinister One, and he's a radio jock, correct?
Yeah, I guess you could call me kind of the jack of all trades. My career is in public transportation.
Okay.
I worked 23 years for the MBTA, and
Doing
now
what?
I'm over at Logan Airport. I started out as a fueler.
Okay.
I actually graduated from Southeastern Regional here.
Okay, yep.
As a
right
diesel
Easton.
theory tech.
Yep.
And I'm one of these guys that I actually went right into my field after graduating Southeastern Regional. I worked at the MBTA, started as a fueler, worked my way up, and became superintendent.
Wow, okay.
I was at the T for 23 years, and now I'm over at Logan Airport. I oversee the maintenance facility at Logan Airport for Paul Revere Transportation, which are those blue buses that you see.
Oh, yeah.
That shuttle the people back and forth to all the airlines. And it's been a great job being in the transportation industry for, I'm looking at 30 plus years right now.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. And I wouldn't have believed how old you were until you told me. That's definitely youthful for a gentleman of your age, but you're not old at all. I'm just saying, I would have shaved off 20 years from your actual age.
Father of two boys.
Yep.
I do some DJing on the side.
Okay.
I manage a singer, Vianna Marie.
Okay.
On the side. I also host a hit radio show called The Booth that broadcasts worldwide.
Wow, okay. Is that a podcast?
It's actually a radio show that started out of WXBR 1460, which you're probably familiar with, out of Brockton.
Yes, I am.
I'm one of the first people that actually started podcasting before it was podcasting.
Okay.
And The Booth has been a very successful show that started.
XBI used to be BET.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
So, well, now before we go on, what we're gonna do, like I do with all my guests, I try to backtrack, and we're doing great, but I'm gonna find out about your childhood, how you got to where you're at now. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I do is when I the art of conversation requires, as the host of a show, if I ask a question, I read the guest, and if they throw something in that I'm trying to, I need to piece together more information about, I just throw in another question.
Gotcha.
So what I got the question to ask you is, since BXR is gone, where do you originate now? Are you still doing the show?
I actually, so XBR is done.
I mean, is it XBR or BX?
XBR,
I'm
WBT.
sorry. Right.
ATD.
Right.
95.9 has kind of picked up that slack
They
for
have.
WXBR
Oh, that's right,
being
because
missing.
Ed Perry bought it.
Yep.
Yes, he did.
And also, there's a radio station out of Taunton, I believe.
PEP maybe? WPEP?
I forget.
AM station or FM?
It's FM, and excuse me, there's a couple of good guys over there that do some great shows over there.
Okay.
They've kind of picked up that slack for Brockton Radio too, but we've been broadcasting consistently online And we now broadcast live over Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and our shows you can catch our shows on iTunes,
Okay.
SoundCloud, and other outlets, streaming outlets.
That's great, and it's worldwide. Now you go live, correct?
Yes, our show is live on Tuesday nights right through our Facebook page of The Booth.
Okay.
So you just go on Facebook, look for The Booth. The Booth is on there Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock. We go live, and you can participate in our live
That's
chat.
what I was going to ask you. You get people calling from all over the world.
We have a ton of people that are right in our chat. So when the show is being
Right.
broadcast, we have a chat window and you can see people asking questions and
Cool.
stuff like that.
So you can visualize it as well
Correct.
online. It's perfect, like what Howie Cod does.
Yes.
Oh, that is so cool. And how many? There's like 3 of you guys, right?
3 of us. So and I say this all the time. I'm truly, truly blessed as a host of a show.
Yep.
I am blessed with a defense attorney, Ken Diesenhoff, we call Ken Diesel.
Okay.
He's a defense attorney for over 30 plus years.
Where's he out of?
He's out of Brockton.
Okay.
He knows his stuff. And then my second co-host, truly, truly blessed to have him, R-Squared, Robert Resnick. He's a 20-plus year military veteran, but he was a JAG officer. He did 2.
What's JAG mean? I should know.
JAG. He's a military judge,
okay.
jury lawyer. He represents people and defends people and things like that. So he brings a lot of knowledge to the table. He's been overseas, did 2 or 3 tours over there.
Vietnam included, or something?
No, he's
Iraq,
a younger
maybe?
guy, so he's over there for Desert Storm and stuff
Okay.
like that. But there's a lot of stuff. If you listen to our show, you'll see a lot of things that he talks about, and he's very torn right now. Right now, the big topic on our show is, of course, President Trump.
Right.
And being from the military, he's torn about a lot of things.
Of course.
As you can see in the local press, the relationship between Trump and the military has been strained
Right. Of
to the
course,
point
it's been
where
strained with this impeachment going on.
yeah, so you see a lot of things where usually the military respects their commander in chief, but
Right.
we've had some instances where you've had some top military officials
Yep.
have now spoken out of their disliking. So you've never seen that before in the history of any president.
Oh, I wouldn't know about that.
And
I think
that's-
Clinton had a few people that had said some things about him during his era in 1998
Mm-hmm.
after the Monica Lewinsky scandal. I usually don't talk politics.
Yeah,
on the
we
show,
don't-
but
yeah.
there's no limit to it. If you brought it up, that's fine, and it's always an interesting topic.
Oh yeah,
and
it has been. And here's the thing with Donald Trump, he was correctly when he spoke about him. Whether you like him or you don't like him,
Yeah.
the one thing he has done is he's selling newspapers for everybody across the board. He's bringing ratings to Fox, CNN, and all these networks like never before.
Of course.
So whether you hate him or like him, he has done his job, whether you like him or not.
If the economy's doing well, I'm not complaining. I still have my freedom. I'm still happy. I'm still able to do my show every day without worrying about getting censured, as long as I keep it clean and above board, which I try to do.
Right.
That's great. So tell me something. How did you get the nickname Sinister One?
So the nickname Sinister One, actually, originally, I'm a big X-Men fan, big comic book fan.
Okay.
And back in the day,
By the way, quick question. Do you ever do wrestling? or football or something? You look like
I actually did. I
thinking maybe
did
that
play
has something tied
football.
into it.
I did play football. I messed up my knee.
Oh.
I had Osgood-Schlatter's disease and blew out my knee
Ooh.
in Pop Warner.
It's a kid.
Real young.
That's
as a
young,
kid.
yeah.
And I could not play football because of that. I did do some charity wrestling against Mike Pava.
Okay, we are.
1 year with the wrestling program.
Right.
You can look it up on YouTube.
Sure,
but
sure.
that's pretty much about it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get back to but how did you get Sinister One?
So the name Sinister One came originally. I was Mr. Sinister, and Mr. Sinister came from a villain who was in.
Oh, that's right, X-Men.
Was in the X-Men comic
Okay.
books. And the reason why I got that name is because at that time I used to write these pieces covering the New England Patriots for different websites
Wow.
early on.
Okay.
So my style was I pulled no punches. I
Right.
told it like it is. I've had some older players that used to see me and they would laugh about some of the stuff I wrote. And then what happened was that there is a rap group out there called the Executioners, who people would know that's a scratch artist.
love the name.
Named Mr. Sinister was the
Okay.
scratch artist. They actually reached out to me, and this is when the internet started getting popular and everybody wanted their domain names. And at that time, I had owned the rights to MrSinister.com because
Okay.
it was in its infant stages. And they actually reached out to me and asked me if they could have that name.
Wow.
Well, I gave that name to him because I was a big fan of the Executioners. I loved the fact that Mr. Sinister, I gave that name to Mr. Sinister. And I said, well, what will I do to come up with a new name as a pseudonym for when I write? And being Massachusetts, and everybody picks on us about the Park the AH.
Yeah, Pocket Car and Harvard Yard,
I did
right.
the Sinister 1 and called myself Sinister 1. So
Sinister with an
S-I-N,
AH, not ER.
no
Got
AH,
it.
S-I-N-I-S-T-A with the digit number 1.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. When I first saw it on Facebook, I was a little confused. I thought it was an I.
Yep.
Because but that's okay. That's why we asked.
Yep.
Now we know it was much easier to say Sinister 1 than Sinister I.
Yep.
So, speaking of the New England Patriots, did you ever interview any of them?
Oh my God, yeah. If you go on my Facebook page, you guys will see that I'm one of the first guys that interviewed Julian Edelman when he was first here.
Wow.
I have a great interview with Julian Edelman. I used to be involved with a fundraising event that Kevin Falk used to do all the time at the Rock Stadium. So you'll see a lot of interviews with him.
Yep.
I actually was able to go down to the Pro Bowl in '97 with the team.
After they lost the Super Bowl
After they lost
to
the
the
Super Bowl
Packers.
to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
So I got to know a lot of guys personally, like Willie McGinnis.
Yep.
Was a good guy. I actually had to write an article and apologize to Teddy Bruschi in an article because when they first drafted Teddy Bruschi, I felt, wow, this guy's too small for that position. He's never going to survive
No
here.
way. Wow.
And 2 seasons in, I ended up writing this whole article about Teddy Bruschi and saying how this guy overachieved. He's probably one of the greatest defensive Patriots players of all time.
Wow, and then he took a stroke, and I'm wondering if that, I wonder if maybe that's the reason.
Well, he took a stroke. He just recently had another stroke.
Did he?
Yes, he had a stroke
He
about
looks great. It's hard.
three, 4
4
months
a
ago.
small one compared to the one he had when he
Yeah,
did. Wow.
and it's nice. It's glad to see that he's still with
Yeah,
us.
yeah, definitely.
So, it's
Wow.
nothing to mess around with. But as a Patriots fan, I've been a season ticket holder. Look, I was a season ticket holder with the Patriots before Belichick. I was a season ticket holder when games were 2 hours.
Wow.
Used to go to the stadium. They were barely on TV.
Yeah, I know that's when they didn't
and
sell out.
I couldn't give tickets away. I would ask people on a Sunday, "Hey, you want to go to the game with me?" No, I'm taking out the trash.
Wow.
I
remember.
And
I used to be so mad that they didn't tell that if the game had to be sold out within 24,
That's
75
right.
hours or
Yep. And
within a 75-mile radius, and within 48 hours of kickoff.
And people don't realize when a game isn't televised, there's no TV timeouts.
Right.
There's no going to a break after every kick or after every timeout. They just play the game. The clock, and you'd go to a 1 o'clock game and you were home by 3:30.
Right. Exactly.
Now you go to a 1 o'clock game, you're not home till 7 o'clock at night.
Right. Tailgating and stuff. Well, now we're the class of the league,
Yes,
obviously. Right.
and this organization, the Patriots organization, is good to roll for another 20 years. They've been rolling over everyone in the NFL for 20 years. And the Patriots are set up to where they've got everybody set in place. Jonathan Kraft is there.
Yep.
That whole organization could just keep running the way it is for the next 20 years.
I'm not complaining.
With the
I
people
hope they
in
do.
place. And you have to realize this too. When you look at the NFL as a whole right now,
Yeah.
they owe a lot of success of what they're seeing right now to the New England Patriots. You go down and look at the Houston Texans.
Right.
That coaching staff comes from the Belichick coaching tree. You go to the Tennessee Titans.
Yep.
You go there, there's Mike Vrabel.
Don't
He
forget,
comes from that tree.
Detroit Lions, Matt Patricia.
That's right. And
Yep.
see what I'm saying? And people don't realize that not only are the Patriots big for the NFL, they've also helped this entire league. Kansas City's whole front office, majority of those people over there are Patriots front office people.
What happened to
back in the
Romeo
day.
Crennel? Who's he with now?
I believe he's with the Cleveland Browns.
Oh,
if I'm
yeah,
not mistaken.
okay.
So
And they're looking a little better too.
yeah.
Well, I was
They've
wondering.
got offense problems.
Yeah, that's really awesome. So this is great about you. So you're definitely in the loop with a lot of well-known people in our area. So all right, let's talk about other. You work in transportation, public transportation.
Mm-hmm.
You have a radio show. Anything else? And you wrote articles, and that's something I didn't even know about you. In terms of media work, what else have you done?
Pretty much radio show.
Yeah.
I was a ring announcer. Most people will see me sometimes and they'll say, "Yeah, I know you from somewhere." And I used to do a lot of ring announcing for Cage FX, Mixed Martial Arts.
Okay.
I've done a couple of Cage Titans ring announcing events
Okay.
around the area. And there's a couple other small organizations that I've done some ring announcing for. So you
Okay.
might see me doing that. I also do the play-by-play.
For what?
For the Bay State Bucks EFL team.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I do
You have a color guy too, or you just do it by yourself?
I do it by myself.
Okay.
But if you ever want to come down and help out,
I'll help out.
when the season
Love
starts, I
sports.
usually have a lot of people. I got a guy, Travis Partington, who hosts a radio show called Oscar Mike Radio Show,
Okay.
which is geared towards veterans. Great show.
Yep.
He sometimes comes down. I mean,
Okay.
I would even have you come down and call.
If you get no one even better, you can always have me.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great great experience. Bay State
Where
Bucks.
are they? Where's the stadium?
They played the
Home
majority of their
stadium?
games last year at Brockton High.
Oh, okay. So
But
it's right in the
usually
area.
they play their games sometimes at Bridgewater State.
Okay,
which is a
fine.
nice facility.
Anytime at East Bridgewater, they get a nice stadium there too.
Yeah, Bridgewater State is where they usually play their home
Yeah,
games
right,
most
it's
of
a
the time.
big-
But that's a great
It is.
stadium.
They're all great
facility.
stadiums. It's
Yeah.
nice that you're in the area and all that stuff. How many in the league in the EFL?
I
Does that
believe
include
there
the
was.
Middleborough Cobras? and
Yes, I believe there were 6 teams this year.
And the Randolph
if I'm not
Oilers?
mistaken. Randolph is not there anymore.
They're not
in
anymore,
the, Yeah,
okay.
it's Taunton Gladiators, Easton, Mass.
Right here, right,
They
okay.
have a team, and then they think there was a team from Maine that came all the way down.
Wow,
So I
okay.
believe it's like 6 or 8 teams, and Tony Rodriguez is the owner of the Bay State Bucks.
And when do they play the game?
Their games start early September, and the season's usually over around mid-October.
Right, but what day of the week usually?
Saturdays and Friday nights.
Okay, because if I were to do it, it would have to be on a time when I had some free time. And what nights are good? Well, like 7 o'clock usually.
Yeah, usually kickoff is about 7 o'clock. Games are usually over by 10:30.
Okay.
But they're good games, and these are a lot of guys that, they didn't make it to the pros, or they're just coming out of college and didn't get drafted. So you see some good, hungry guys.
Right.
They have had some guys that have done very good. They
Well,
had a
it's
player.
sports. It's good action.
Yeah, they had a
Okay.
player about 2 or 3 years ago who ended up getting called up,
Well, for the pros?
and he went to the pros. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Who do you end up playing for?
I
You
want to
remember
say the
who it is?
Giants. I want to say the Giants, but I'm not 100% sure. But
Okay.
I believe he got called up to the Giants.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, then, so talk about more of the format of of the show that you do. You do with Dieselhoff I'm sorry about it.
Robert Resnick,
Robert
Squared.
Resnick, yeah. Did you say? Oh, okay. Well, talk about the format of this.
So
It's like
the
talk
format-
radio mostly.
Well, what it is so we derived our show from another show called On the Mark Show with private
Okay.
investigator Mark Chappetta.
Okay.
Me and Ken were the co-hosts with Frank Zanowski, who was a Brockton police officer.
I know Frank.
And Mark,
C,
yes,
CZ,
yep,
got it.
And then Mark Chappetta's kids got sick. And
Yep.
everybody who knows Mark Chappetta's boys, Troy and Andrew, they were actually picked for Team USA in Australia to compete for disabled Olympics
Oh, wow,
in
okay.
power chair soccer. So big shout to those guys if you're watching. Joe
Okay.
Lowe's on school, showing a lot of support for him. So big shout out to you guys out there. But they're going to be trying to raise money for that also. But we started with Mark, and then when Mark had to take off, WXBR wanted to keep us on the air. So
Okay.
they asked us to come up with a show. We came up with the show, The Booth. And what The Booth is kind of like a best description is if you go to a bar
Yeah.
and you see 3 or 4 guys sitting in the booth and they're just talking
Got a
about whatever.
conversation. Just
And
like
that's
we
and
do
that's
here.
kind of what the show is.
Yep.
We do have it in segments now. So we start off, we have our local national news.
Yep.
Then we do our sports news. We do our entertainment news. And then after our entertainment news, we go into, right now we do this thing called Trump Troubles. And we talk about all the stuff that's going
Okay.
on in politics.
Okay.
And then we started Legal Booth because with Ken being the defense attorney,
Right.
we have a lot of people that hit us up with questions about legal questions.
Of course.
So we do a lot of legal questions.
So you really have a plethora of stuff, a large plethora. That's
Yeah, we
impressive.
try to cover all the bases. And I would say our age limit of our show to watch, we've got people from 18 to 50 that like our show.
Okay.
I'm still, even though
I guess. Well, now you got one that's 60 that likes it.
well, I'm 53,
You're
but I'm
53.
still a big gamer. Of
course.
I beta tested for Microsoft for Xbox
Okay.
Live, so I play a lot of video games too on the
Okay.
side with my 2 boys.
Okay,
so,
that's cool.
it's a good time. So we talk about that stuff too. And
Have you ever done any acting, film acting? Like,
yeah, I actually.
you probably know Harry Toole. You know him?
I know a few people by face because I've seen them around.
Yeah.
I was actually one of the football players in the movie The Game Plan with The Rock.
Okay. Wow.
But I was on set more than you actually see me in the film. If you blink, you miss me.
I know. Well, it's hard to miss you.
But it was a good experience for me.
Yeah.
It paid good money.
Of course.
And it was the first time that
Did you meet The
people.
Rock? Did you talk to The Rock?
I didn't meet The Rock. I saw The Rock. I wasn't starstruck. I met his cousin,
Okay.
who I was more impressed to meet. His cousin looks just like him. And for those who don't
Who's
know
his
The Rock,
cousin? The role?
His
Rock and
cousin-
roll? Couldn't be just that one.
was his cousin was actually on American Gladiators.
Okay.
The Rock's cousin. And The Rock's cousin actually does all of his stunts in most of his movies. So when
Okay.
you see the movie where him and Sean Astin, I forget the kid's name there, but they went in the jungle and was hunting. They were like bounty hunters, and
Okay.
The Rock had this scene where he rolled down the hill. That's his cousin that
Okay.
rolls down the hill. But it was a great experience. It was nice to be in the film. I've been asked to be in a couple other films, but I just haven't had the time.
You haven't had the
with
time.
my career.
But it's
and
nice to
everything.
be asked, and it's obviously, I'm sure they'll have you on call, and maybe at some point you will have the time if you can make the time.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you're going to do movies, even as being an extra, you have to devote
Well, tell
a
me
lot
about,
of time.
all right, look, let's get back to the public transportation thing. Now, you've said you've been there doing this for like 30 years.
Oh yeah.
Plus 30 years. Now, I mean, it's a fine job. It's but it's it's blue collar stuff. Wouldn't you rather? I mean, aren't you eventually going to reach a point where you can retire with a nice pension from doing
Well,
that?
I had worked my way up to management,
Okay.
so I wasn't in the trenches, so to say. I just love the job of serving the public.
You just love it. Okay, if you love it, then do it forever. But I wasn't sure what you were going. What your priorities are for the future.
Yeah, I'm a young guy. And,
I know.
I'm not
I
ready.
know
Yeah,
you're-
I'm not ready to retire, but serving the public
No,
in
but the
public
reason
transportation.
the reason I'm not bringing up what I'm getting at is if you could get a nice pension from the public transportation industry, then you could be freed up to do other things that you might enjoy more, like acting, maybe more stuff on the radio, maybe more stuff in the media.
Yeah, you're right. It could.
Yeah,
But
I mean that's what I see, but I don't know. You're the one that
here's what scares me,
it's the
and
bottom line
what,
is
what
you.
scares me is
Yeah.
I saw a lot of guys who take pensions and things like that early,
Right.
and then they're not able to enjoy it because bad things happen. Guys
Oh,
with
really?
cancer, guys with heart attacks, guys with whatever.
Okay, but you can't equate a
Oh,
a guy
I know.
getting an early pension to physical ailments. If you stay healthy, if you keep yourself up and shape, it's only if you let the stress get to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of that's probably stress related. You don't seem very stressful, although at least on the surface. Now what's going on inside you, I don't know. But what I'm saying and sitting here with you
No,
now,
that's one of the things people say about me. And being in public transportation, you have to
That's
stay
gotta be
stress free.
stressful.
You have
Well,
you have to be
right.
stress free because at any time you could have any situation. Now, like for me, I work at Logan Airport right now. I run a maintenance facility.
okay.
Um,
That's
you
not
know,
stressful to you.
No,
Other people flying through there, the terminals, thousands every day. Right?
No, I mean we've got
Don't you have to
people.
be responsible for getting people from?
Yes,
yeah.
our buses have to make sure we maintain our buses. Like
Right.
right now, our buses are getting ready to go to rehab.
Okay. Rehab.
I'm
Wow.
just scheduling those. Schedule the buses to go off to rehab.
Okay.
You have breakdowns, and you have to make sure that breakdowns are taken care of properly.
Sure.
You're not unloading people on the highway.
Okay.
And you have to oversee your workforce and make sure that they work properly.
Yep.
And one of the biggest things that I will say on camera and say is, a lot of times when you watch TV and you watch these stories about public transportation, the MBTA and Logan and stuff, a lot of people don't realize that these public transportation companies get a big hit, a bad rap sometime, because they think that they receive all of this money, but they don't realize that a lot of the money that comes into these organizations like Logan and MBTA are earmarked for specific things. So you can't misappropriate funds. You
Okay.
can go to jail, you can lose your job. So when people say, well, the T gets all this money, why do we have these problems? Well, that's because the state pays the employees, the state pays that part there. The feds pay for the equipment
Okay.
and things like that. You can't mix that money, you can't divert money. And people don't get that. It's like salt, for instance. So if you have a mild winter,
Yeah.
and you don't use all your salt in
Right.
these cities and towns. And if you notice, like in February and March,
In other
if we
words,
get cold,
they buy it just in case they expect a big
right?
winter, and then
But the
money
thing is that,
they overspent because
budget-
they didn't, the money as it turns
But it's-
out, it wasn't as needed.
but it's
as
not just that. So say like February and March,
Yeah.
and we have some cold weather. You ever see them just obliterate the salt on the roads and just put a ton of salt? The reason why is they want to get rid of their overage of salt.
Right.
Because if you use less salt, guess what happens when the budget comes up? Oh, you guys didn't use that much salt. We're going to cut that.
Oh yeah.
From the
So
budget.
They don't want the budget cut.
That's right.
get
So
it.
they'll cut
Okay.
that budget down, and
Yep.
you don't get as much salt. Then when the next winter comes, and you have
all
the
the-
worst winter ever,
Yeah.
but your budget is set because they cut 20% of your salt budget down.
You're screwed.
It's
ice
exactly.
everywhere.
And that's the politics of government that a lot of people don't know about.
Right. Well, yeah, but it's easy to figure that because I mean when it comes to like nature and everything, you have to like out anticipate Mother Nature, and it's not always easy.
Right,
And-
exactly. And also, like I said, in the industry where I came from with the MBTA, I can truly say, speaking from experience,
Yeah.
the real problem with the MBTA began when they changed the MBTA to public forward funding,
Okay.
which meant that they forward funded the transportation system before realizing what was going wrong.
Okay.
So it became more of a reactive action than a proactive. When you're dealing with public transportation and buses and trains, you need to be proactive.
Okay,
You need
right.
to know what you're going to do. And then there are things that affect and change the public transportation industry. Things need updates. Buses need repairs.
Right.
You know, buses need rehabs.
See, that's what it sounds to me
Trains
like.
need
I
rehabs.
don't see how it can't be stressful, but you say you like it enough so.
I love it because I love
Okay.
the challenge. And like I said, I went to Southeastern Regional.
Yep.
I went 3 years of diesel theory.
Okay.
That was my dream, was to be in that industry. Now, I was a smart kid growing up,
Probably still a smart kid.
and you know, I actually was double promoted.
Yeah,
I
you
skipped a
told me that. You
grade.
don't promote it and you hated it because.
I hated it. My dad was upset with me because I like to work. I always liked to work with my hands when
Yep.
I was younger, and
Why were you double promoted? What kind of test
my
did you take?
grades and the way I tested was
Just over the top.
was over the top.
Yeah.
One of the things that happened to me when I was young was because my grades were so high and I got double promoted. I was one of the first kids. I grew up in Mission Hill, Boston.
Okay. Wow.
54. I can't say where I live, but I don't want to give it out. But I grew up a young black kid, very smart in the Boston school system. My grades were just way high. I was attending the Tobin School, and they had to get me out of there. So I was one of the first kids that was, when they started busing, the whole story, and everybody knows about the history of South Boston.
Yes, the busing in the 70s.
But that wasn't the worst. I was not sent to South Boston. I actually was sent to Brighton.
Wow.
So for those who don't even know what happened, at that time, South Boston, the class of people in South Boston and the class of people in Roxbury were at the same level.
I know.
And the public
they were
and the
all-
media
and-
all went to South Boston and covered that. I and 4 other students were shipped off to the Alexander Hamilton. I'll never forget it. I was shipped off to the Alexander Hamilton School
Wow.
in Brighton, Mass. At that time, growing up,
Yeah.
Brighton, Mass was the median of income was up here.
Okay.
And I remember going to school on the bus. I remember my dad dropped me off at the bus stop. And I remember the buses taking us to Brighton. And I remember the state police and Boston police met with us at around Arboway by
Yeah.
Route 2.
Right.
And then they brought us into Brighton, where we were met by hundreds of people. They stoned our bus. They
Yeah.
threw
Racism.
excrement
must
at
have
our
been
bus.
worth it. Oh man.
When our bus pulled up to the school, we had people urinating on the bus.
Wow.
They had signs, and it was just a surreal thing. The cops came on the bus. I remember them taking us off the bus. And as I said, there was only 4 or 5 of
Well,
us
how did
black
you get
kids.
through that?
So what happened was I would go to school,
Yeah.
and I cried. I remember my first
can
day, I
believe
cried.
it.
I was scared. But then I made friends, and I made friends with a lot of white kids.
That's great.
And then I would come out of school with these white kids and spend all day with these kids, and then their parents would come up and grab them at the end of the day, and you don't want to be with that N-word, and
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
yeah, wow.
And then the police would come up, and then they would take us back to the bus, and they'd shield us, and they were throwing rocks and saying whatever. And I remember going home on my 3rd day of school. I remember going home crying.
Wow.
And I told my dad, I never want to go back. And my dad looked at me and he said, that word, he said, did it hurt you physically? I remember my dad punching me in my arm. He said, did that hurt you? And I said, yeah. He says, if I call you something, does it hurt you? And I said, no. He says, don't let anybody, if they're not hurting you, ever, ever, ever take away your education. Ever. Your education is your most important thing in life.
It's true.
And my dad swore by that, and everything my dad has told me, I've lived by that. And I never let anybody, I went right back to school the next day, and I stayed in that school until
You toughed it out.
I toughed it out, and I ended up at the Farragut School, high honors.
Where's the
there.
Farragut School?
The Farragut School is located right on Huntington Ave. It was
Okay.
right there in Huntington Ave,
Yep.
right in Brigham Circle.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I went. I was a high honors student there. And then I left there, and then my dad wanted me to go to Boston Latin. I wanted no part of Boston Latin. I wanted to go to Southeastern Regional and
And there you are. Well, guess what? We're under 5 minutes.
wow.
Okay. So very quickly, just give a few shouts out to people, and then we're going to wrap the show up.
Big shout out to all my friends, family watching the show. Big shout out to, I got to mention, Southeastern Regional Vocational Technical High School
they'll be
here
watching
in
it.
Easton.
Yep.
I graduated from there in '84, and I stayed in the field. So I want to thank these guys for giving students stuff like that. I wish trade schools would be the way that they should be. I got to thank Vianna Marie, my my singer that I manage.
Get her on the show.
And yeah, I'll have to hook her up and get her on here with you.
Okay.
And my co-host to my show, R2, Ken Diesel from the booth, Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Facebook Live, and then maybe we'll have you call in.
I'll come in and hang out.
Yeah,
I'm
have a good
I'm
time,
down.
and big shout out to Joe O'Neill, who
Joe,
small world.
got me in the industry, Joe. If you're watching,
Yeah.
Well, I hope you had fun with me tonight.
Good show, man. It went by real quick. I'm glad to
Of course,
be
it
on
always
here. Great
does.
stuff. I love
And
to.
If you can get me, listen. If you get me any of the Patriots to interview or anyone like that, I'd love to have them in here. I don't know which kind of influence.
I have
you
a good story about a Patriots interview, but I'll tell you that's for off camera.
You got it.
I've got a great
All
story
right.
for you.
Great job. nice having you
No,
on.
good stuff, man.
Mr. Sinister One. All right, folks. Thanks for watching Top of Time. More great episodes to follow. See you next time. Take care.
Ooh, we got the music going out?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
That's how we wrap it up, baby. It's like we begin it. Just don't bang the table or you're going to make me skip. No,
Oh, don't bang the table.
All right, it's all right, all right.
I thought you wanted me to.
No, because all right, it's fine. You didn't miss too much of a beat. There it is.